If there are parents in this room, I would need a quick hi from them. Okay, cool. So I've got a few parents in, and it's good, you know, that you are there in this session. What we need to realize as parents is a lot has changed. A lot has changed at the world of work, and hence education choices also need to change, right? What we would try and do is try and get a perspective on the career guidance, or what I would like to call is as a career management skills, right? So, you know, unlike the time you and I were growing up, uh, kids here are living in a much more volatile world, right? Uh, in all probability, they're going to get into jobs which don't even exist today, and hence it's important to look at career from a very different prism or very different perspective from how we approached when we were in school, right? To me, it's a career journey. It'll continue to evolve as they grow, right? And hence, you know, I've made a mention. Students, before I get into and detail your options available and what probably to do and not to do, I want to ponder. I want to bring in two stories to start with. How many of you have heard of Roger Bannister? Who's heard of Roger Bannister? Roger Bannister is a neurologist, an author, and a sports enthusiast. In May 1954, he broke a barrier, and it was more of a mental barrier where it was believed that if you run a mile for less than 4 minutes, run a mile in less than 4 minutes, in all probability, your medical conditions would be such that you'll not be able to survive. Roger Bannister in May 1954 broke that record, and as you can see, he's hale and hearty. The second person who broke that that record, was in June 1954, less than 30 days actually, of Roger Bannister breaking the sub 4-minute mile benchmark. And there is a lesson that we need to realize, to understand from the story, you know. Before I do that, I'll probably bring in another part of it, which is a bumblebee. I'm sure most of you have seen that dark colored Kale Rang ka fly, which according to theory of aerodynamics cannot fly, but it flies. In both these stories, there is a take for us. We need to understand that a lot often as individuals, we do our own, we create our own conditions. You know, we are conditioned to our own constraints is what I meant. There is no limit. You know, if Bumblebee had known that the science or the theory of aerodynamics does not allow it to fly, my sense is in all probability it would have never made an attempt to fly. Similarly, if Roger Bannister would not have challenged the belief at that time, we probably would have never had someone who could run a mile in less than 4 minutes. Children, all of you in this room, all of you are achievers. And I'm not saying just for the heck of saying that, you know. All of you would do well in your life. The only question that we probably need to see is, some of you might take a little longer than others, and some of you might have to strive a little harder than others. And this is for you to decide what your limits are. Most of us in this room, in fact, all of us in this room have dreams. All of us intend to do well, to contribute to the society, to have a large house, to have a lot of money, to have a lot of social status. What it is important is these are intent statements. They're important. However, unless you convert your intent statements into goals which are documented, which are written, there is a very high likelihood that you might not be able to do to your potential. That takes me to the second story, and something that all of us have cherished in our childhood. Some of you are still doing it probably. Alice. And I want you to take you that event where Alice goes to the cat and checks with the Cheshire cat, or what is the direction that I need to go. Interestingly, the cat asks Alice, what is the direction, where do you want to go? Alice replied by saying, I don't know. A very meaningful intervention from the cat. It doesn't matter. And these two stories actually have a gist of today's session. You will define your own limits. You will put your own constraints and hence decide or cap your growth. And unless you know which direction you have to go, even if you do well, you might not know if you have done well. Ladies and gentlemen, remember, success is not something which just happens. People who are successful are not just lucky. They strive for it. They make all efforts to achieve success. People mostly fail because they fail to plan. And when you fail to plan, when you do not have a plan, it is highly likely that you go with the wind, which means you can sway in any direction, not realizing whether you're going in the right direction or not. You know, this reminds me of as children, when we used to travel long distance, we used to look at those milestones along the road. And they were reassuring us that the direction we are going is correct. Two, how far are we from our destination? When I talk about reaching our destination, I am not too fixed about whether each one of us in this room need to necessarily know at the end of this session or end of this academic year what we want to be. But what I'm certainly looking at is we know the direction in which we are moving in. For me, that's important. Many of us, when we're looking at career planning, might use a goal-centric approach where we know exactly where we want to go. Others can use a process-centric approach where they use a large option to channelize the direction they want to take. There is nothing right and wrong about each of these processes. These are approaches that are used by each one of us. However, in both these cases, we know the direction. And it is important that you are the author of your own success. Because if you're not authoring your own success, then you can have fatigue. Then you might need a lot of course correction in your career journey. This is typically how most of us look at our career plans. We are in school, we will complete school, go to college, maybe some of us want to go into higher education, which is masters, maybe doctorate, get into a job, work, retire. You know, my dad, who served in army and he's 85 now, probably lived that life. Went to school, went to college, joined army, lived his life, retired, enjoying his retirement. But for most of us, our career paths would be something like this. Most of you have heard about lifelong learning. Most of you have understood that, us, we will need to keep reskilling ourselves. We need to understand that we are moving into, or we have already moved into, a gig economy where full-time employment of the whole world of work, the way they would look at, might very change. The pandemic, for example, has changed maybe the whole premise of working in a workplace or going to a workplace. We were expecting a change in the work from home phenomena, exceeding pollution levels, people, work-life balance was moving direction, in towards people working from home, working remotely. But the pandemic has accelerated most of it, which essentially means the world of work will drastically change. Most of the organizations have acknowledged that they can achieve higher efficiencies by working at home. By and large, career planning is not optional. It is not something that you need to do it once in a year or once in your school. This is a continuous process. You need to be completely aware of what you're wanting to. You need to keep fixing it up. You need to keep changing the course wherever required. And that is the only way you will come out as a winner. Coming to the topic in discussion, we need to often realize, and this is something which is the thumb rule for most of us, that my academic grades define my stream. Many of us have already decided our stream much even before knowing our academic grades. I think it's important to understand that academic grades are important, but they're not necessarily a true indicator. Just because I have scored well in mathematics does not mean I have a natural or a numerical aptitude. What we also need to recognize is my choice of subjects, my choice of stream will also define my higher education. While some of the programs will be more liberal and open to take from people from all streams and all subject combinations, there are certain academic pathways which would not be available for students who do not have specific subjects. Unfortunately, in the last few years, I've observed many of us realize that we have boarded a wrong bus much later. And unfortunately, there is very little scope to undo them. Another point that probably we need to understand, that we use a word stream selection. You select. Selection is not like an MCQ question where you can eliminate a few options and reach out and say, "Yehi bacha hai, so this is what I'm going to do." You can't really say, "Okay, I'm not going to take science because, or I don't like science unless I'm not going to do this, and hence I'm left with only this particular option." While you might have strong observations on some subjects, while you might have strong reservations on pursuing some subjects, you need to have a very strong and a compelling reason of what you are taking. It needs to be taken, not given, guys. There is a strong difference between given and taken. You always have an option. You always have a choice to take, and you need to exercise that. Even if it means that decision is going to be delayed by a week, it is worth than taking a hasty decision and regretting it later. Let's try and understand what broadly is available. We usually look at science as one of the options. Student looking at science typically at school will be split into two broad categories, which is physics, chemistry, and mathematics, and physics, chemistry, and biology. I'm assuming all of you have English as your subject. Some of you would also have an option of combining physics, chemistry, mathematics, and biology as your subject. Students who are looking at commerce have an option of looking at commerce with and without mathematics. And those who are looking at humanities or arts have an ocean of options to look at. What we're going to do now is delve into each one of them, look at the mandatory subjects and the optionals available, and then probably move on and see what are the kind of careers that are available to us. What have been the traditional careers that are available? What are possibly some of the new age careers that are available now? And please understand that most of the careers around are coming with an expiry date. Over the last decade or so, if you see, most of the top 10, top 15 careers did not exist a decade or two back. And this trend will continue. Possibly this period of a decade might shrink to half a decade. So while I'm emphasizing a lot on the subjects that you study, I am also privy to the fact that you might be working in jobs which don't even exist today. We'll talk about it as we move forward, progress in this session. Allow me a second and let me see if there are any questions to be. I'll take up the questions in a while, right? If that's okay with everyone. When you're looking at science, you're primarily looking at applied science and pure science. You're looking at medicine, you're looking at healthcare, you're looking at engineering, or you're looking at pure science, or you're looking at a number of interdisciplinary careers. And trust you me, the direction of work is towards multidisciplinary careers. It is not necessary that a student of science, let's say physics, chemistry, and mathematics, is necessarily looking at engineering or a pure science. He might actually look at mathematics or statistics as a career, something which is coming up and has a very, very strong demand. Besides this, and look at the current pandemic, look at how the demand for biochemistry, biophysicists, environment, our sensitivity towards environment, investments into forensic science will go up. Please understand that it is not just this pandemic. It is not that it will come and it will go. It will also change the kind of investments, the kind of priorities that organizations and governments will have. Agriculture, an extremely, however, underrated career by students. Environmental science, biotechnology, trust me, there is a world beyond the engineering and medicine that we look at. And I'm going to probably split the two even further. Sorry. If you're looking at physics, chemistry, biology as your option, you are essentially someone who's looking at medicine, healthcare, and pure science. I want to bring your focus to medicine and healthcare. Please understand, PCB is not about becoming a doctor. There are a number of career options available to students in healthcare, and they are as rewarding and as gratifying as it can be. Agriculture, biotechnology, biophysics, a lot of these careers. In fact, if you're passionate about studying medicine or healthcare or biology, and you're good with mathematics, it's a fantastic time to have that combination. Your optionals with PCB could be psychology, home science, mathematics, economics. Environmental economics. I don't know how many of you have heard of it, but currently there is a severe supply side constraint for people working in that area, and they're largely students of the stream. These are some of the options that you have. This is not the complete set of options. If you look at from a CBSE or most of the other boards, the list is longish. But these are some of the options. And what I'm trying to do is also now with this, show you a set of careers that you can look into. A quick confirmation on the chat if the speed of the session is fine. Is the speed okay? Anhad says perfect. Thank you so much. That's more than enough. Thank you. If you're someone who's looking at PCM, you have engineering and pure science as your options. If you have grown up being told to become an engineer, I would really request you to explore the world of pure science. I would encourage you to look at mathematics and statistics as your other options. These are some of the options that you have. Artificial intelligence, computer science, economics, biotechnology, fine arts, yoga, home science. It's an endless list. What is important right now when you're looking at the career is what are the set of careers that you're looking at. It is not necessary if I'm looking at doing a career in computer science that I need to have computer science or artificial intelligence in school. However, if you can get exposed to these subjects at school and start working on it, please remember, most of these jobs are also vocational in nature. These are also skill-based. And hence, if you can pick up early and if you can use online learning, if you can use self-learning as a mode, these are good subjects to have. It's a good idea to get introduced to some of these subjects early in your career. If you're someone who's looking at, who's interested in the world of business, economics, finance, money, commerce is a fantastic field to look at. The demand for students of commerce has been as strong as of other areas. However, I have often wondered why many of us choose commerce without mathematics. I understand that's an option available to you. I understand there are options available, career options available with that combination. But I really want you to think through when you're doing that. I also want you to be aware कि 10th के maths के बाद अगर आप छोड़ रहे हो maths, you need to know a lot of your competitive examinations. And forget about the competitive exams alone. A lot of times your numerical ability is something which will be required. So your mathematics of class 10, even if you're opting for, if you're not opting for mathematics in class 11, please be aware that a lot of competitive exams that you will go for, whether it is for management, for CA, for cost and management accountant, and many others, will have mathematics of class 10th level. Which means if you were not very fond of mathematics, it is high time that you start practicing and build proficiency in that subject because you will need to have it. These are typically what are being offered to you. Another subject, when you're looking at commerce without economics, the world of business without basic understanding of economics might not be the best. Please understand that there are universities, there are colleges which will give you options on crazy set of options, subject options, but they're not necessarily endorsed by the industry. Which means whenever you're looking at a course, it's important that you look at how is the industry seeing it. So a career, I'm going back and discussing something like a BCA, something which has been written off by the industry. So today, if you open up Employment News or any other, you would really find an industry asking for people from a BCA graduate, which means you need to think through when you're looking at some of these degrees. Does that make sense? Around half a decade back, doing a BCA was probably not, at least in my view, not a recommended option. If you're looking at BCA now, data science is the only reason why you could look at it. The optional subjects for you are information practices, psychology, physical education. What you would also find in me, speaking of psychology, a lot often, psychology is not necessarily for humanities. Please understand the success of each one of you who's in school right now. One of the important skills that you will need to have is people skills. A lot of you would be measured on your emotional intelligence and not necessarily on your IQ. Two skills which will be very relevant in the future will be creativity and people and communication skills. It is important that you start developing them. When you are a student of psychology, even if you do not pursue it in your grad, it exposes you to human behavior, and it's a nice skill to have. In fact, it's an important skill to have. Maybe it was relevant, nice to have a few years back. It's an important skill to have. Whether you develop these skills by studying psychology, not necessarily, but studying psychology is certainly one of the ways of doing it. Does it guarantee? No, but it definitely sensitizes you to that option. Sorry, allow me a second. That's my personal favorite. A lot of times people argue that why do we show humanities towards the end? Not because it's not important, not because many of think it's for people who are not very academic oriented. I show it towards the end because this is one career which has the maximum options available. This is one stream where you have almost everything under the sun. There are so many options to choose for that one needs to reserve it for the last. This is typically what you have to have, and this is what you can choose from. As I've said in the past, it's a partial list. Some of your schools will be offering these subjects, some of your schools might not be offering this subject. Schools is important. Your choices are equally important. You need to, at this stage, also evaluate pragmatically, or what are the options? What are you good at? What is that you should probably look at? And what are you getting? Do not study legal studies because it is only for people who are studying law. Even if you have some degree of interest and want to understand the basic, legal studies is a nice subject to study. Knowledge of law is extremely important in a knowledge economy. For many of us who believe that law is for students of commerce and humanities, my data for 2018 confirms that 40% of the students studying in national law schools in India were science students. And this is in spite of weightage of mathematics in law entrance exams being negligible. And this is what I was speaking of initially in my session. Do not limit yourself. Do not condition yourself. Because the moment you put constriction, condition yourself, you become your own enemy. Let me spend a little more time on the world of work, the direction it is taking, areas where there are jobs and stuff like this, and then we'll probably open the session. I was talking about this a little while back. People, technology, and creativity will be three most important skills to have for young kids like you. So if you thought that creativity is a time pass, it might have been relevant in the past generation, not for you guys. Your people sensitivity, your people skills, your orientation to technology and creativity to a large extent will define how successful you will be. If knowledge of mathematics and English was the differentiator for my generation, people, technology, and creativity would be the differentiator for your generation. The new set of jobs in IT, the new set of jobs in engineering, in pure science, would require you to have a very large, a very strong understanding or orientation towards creativity. In this room, there can be people who will develop technology. There will be people who will work on that technology, and there will be people who will use that technology. But there is nobody amongst you who can thrive by staying away from technology. Even if you're a student of fine arts or music, you need to orient yourself to technology. Composers of yesterday and composers of today are not necessarily the same. Technology is impacting every nook and corner. And hence, it's important that you orient. And you can choose to be any of these three. Someone who creates, uses, develops. But you cannot be none of these. STEM is an acronym used for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. It is widely believed that 70% of the jobs in the future will be one, multidisciplinary, and from STEM. Please understand, it is not saying that jobs in the future will only be there for science students. People will need to be multidisciplinary, which means you need to subject, you will not be a specialist of a particular subject, but you'll have to have more than one, and you'll be using STEM across. People will have multiple, people will have their super niches, super specializations. In fact, while I was speaking to a gentleman in UK, there is a very important and significant mention that he did. He says, Arun, going forward in UK, we have people who have more than one job, which are very distinct in nature. So this is also contradicting my niche theory. A lot of you would pursue more than one jobs, which will be different in nature. This is what the whole gig economy is talking about, which essentially means you will work on short-term projects, complete, move to next, complete, move to next. Works well. This is how probably a lot of companies are looking at. This is how a lot of governments have started to look at. And this is how your generation seems to be liking to do. looking at working across geographies, being agnostic to where your work, which is your city of work. And I've said that sometime back, most of the jobs that you guys will be doing don't even exist today, which means you need to have a direction, which means you need to have a strong sense of what you know and what you don't know. When you're looking at engineering, these are some of the options that you had and have. STEM probably creates a new set of jobs. Simulation system engineers, application engineers, don't worry, I think there is this paucity of time. So I'm going to touch each one of them. And what I'm going to do today is allow you an opportunity to have a one-to-one interaction. I'm going to share a number and a link. You can use that link to fix a 15-minute one-to-one appointment. I'll try and do as many as I can. I'm going to keep my calendar available, every day for 2 hours for you people. Look at something else. My mom used to keep telling me, hey, listen, stay away from video games. And look what has happened. From a generation which played video games to a generation where it is the career. Game designers, game developers, gamification is happening everywhere. Your classrooms are getting gamified, workplaces are getting gamified, and it is something which will continue. A lot of people talk about user interface, user experience, UI and UX. Most of the work that is being done on UX was originally done by a group of psychologists. These were not designers. These were not developers. These were psychologists who understood human behavior. And they were trying to see what impact, how can they impact technology and design through that. Research and development engineer. It's a longish list. Data science, whether it is machine learning, whether it is artificial intelligence, deep learning, for me, everything it's in the same data science bucket. Going forward, whether data science will be the big thing, I don't know. But end of the day, the significance of data in our lives, significance of decisions or data in decision making will continue to be increased. For some of you, you'll be surprised that there are organizations, there are marketing functions in large blue chip companies which are investing more in data science, in understanding the consumer behavior through data science than to spend on advertising. Digital marketing has made the whole concept of marketing a lot different. I've spoken about it. Statistics analysis, data science, mathematics. Most of the people who are working, a lot of people, not most people, because not many of us actually pursue mathematics and statistics at graduate level in comparison to many other careers, but statistical analysis, mathematics, strong options to look at. Information technology, information library has been there for a while. It will continue to grow with the whole cloudification, with everything going on cloud. In the last 20 years, you will find that ITL-like jobs will only increase. Infrastructure managed services will strengthen further. The only shift is now organizations will not have those large network operating centers. However, the OEMs will now invest in setting up those large setups on cloud, and people will pay as per their use. The whole transport mechanism, look at what typically has happened. Information security over the last 3 decades has been extremely important as we increase digitalization. the demand for cybersecurity, information security will only increase. As per estimates in India, is short of 3 lakh information security professionals. When you're looking at medicine, these were traditionally the jobs that you were looking at. This is what is available. I spoke about environmental sciences a while back, right? Biomedical sciences, biochemistry, pharmacy, health sciences are going to be far more heard of. Now, the choice that you have to make is to understand whether I'm going to take what was relevant yesterday or I'm going to look at things which were relevant to tomorrow. And this is where I'm actually asking you to go back and fix your subjects accordingly. Because if you're looking at becoming a biophysicist and you do not harp on your maths and biology subject, it is unlikely that you will succeed in that job. Would you be eligible? In many places you will be eligible. Would you be able to do extremely well? My sense is no, right? Even for people who are looking at psychology, look at clinical psychology, and I've often heard students saying, I'm interested in clinical psychology, not realizing that people who pursue clinical psychology have a lot of data crunching to do. They need to learn to work on a lot of statistical tools. And that is what my intention is in this session, take you deep and say, hey, listen, you need to do it a lot. Please understand, it is impossible for me to, while many of you would have wanted me to touch on each of these, it is something like 20 hours. So what we're going to do is look at a series of sessions, information here and there, and then try and close. But right now, let's get oriented from a stream selection point of view. Look at some of these 8 options. My sense is 7 out of 10 you have not heard of. And this is what my concern is. You're choosing your careers, your children are choosing careers on a very small pool of options. For parents and educators in this room, you need to recognize that career planning helps, improves academic performance. Students who are aware of their options, students who know what they're getting into, tend to do far better academically than otherwise because they're internally motivated, intrinsically motivated, right? Some more. Imagine with so much of work being done around the pandemic on genes and genetics, do you think it will close with the pandemic? It will stop with the pandemic, or we will invest more? The next 3 decades, even if we have short memories, industry and governments will have large spendings on this area. The way the mutations are happening is also directing on the demand for people who work on genetics and affiliated areas. This is typically what students of commerce look at. There are a couple of options which are not necessarily usual, something like actuarial sciences. These are some of the options that you can look at. Project management could be good. Financial analysts, market research, insolvency. All of you have heard of builders going insolvent, companies going insolvent. There is a strong demand for people who can resurrect these companies. Companies which have high debtors, projects which are stuck in between governments and Organizations or industries cannot afford to shut organizations like that. And here comes the demand for insolvency professionals, people who can resurrect businesses, can very clinically help organizations come back on their feet. As I said, world of options, no dearth of options to look at. In fact, if there has to be someone who's confused spoiled for options, it is students of humanities. Each of these areas would have strong demand. Whether you want to get into mass communication, design, look at the last few years, how political research has gone up. Look what people like Prashant Kishore have done. With this, I'm getting into the final leg of my presentation, and I want you to think both from if you're a student and if you're a parent, right, or an educator. Is Marx the best of the options to look at? If you're not scoring well in a subject, I would still tend to go with you and say, hey, listen, think through. If you're not even scoring in your exams, you need to think on your premise of picking up a subject. But just because I'm doing well does not necessarily makes me choose a particular career. The fact is, most of you in this room, most of our children are very diligent. And someone who's hardworking and diligent and is organized will be able to score. But scoring a high score does not necessarily prove that he has the aptitude for a particular subject. We need to be, when you're looking at careers, there are two things that we need to look at. One, your career success depends upon a few areas, which is your native or your talent, your ability. It depends upon your personality, your interest, and your values. You need to find a right combination of these four. Interest usually is not the primary basis of choosing a career. While many of you would disagree with me or this is not what typically has been said, your child's choice of or interest in a career is limiting in nature because he has not been exposed to many careers. And if you're not being exposed to a career, it is very obvious that he would not strive for that career. And this is the reason why at NPOCA we usually say that the kids needs to be, we need to start helping kids or exposing kids to careers from as early as class 6 and class 7. No, they're not in a position to make decisions. But they certainly need to know about the world of careers that are available. It's important that it is well deliberated. It is not a bad idea to approach, while it is not necessary, but it's not a bad idea to actually approach a counselor and ask for help. Sometimes an external view will help you take a more practical approach. Third, and the last part, please help your children. Please encourage your children. And children, please try and write down your career plans. Because unless you write, it is only an intent statement. And many of us have all the right intents, but might not have the finer nuances. And hence, it's very important. And please understand, when you will start this process, many of you might feel very suffocated with lack of knowledge, but that's absolutely fine. That is true for almost all of you. But the good part is you have enough time on your side to take a decision.